Good morning, Year 5 and 6. I hoped you liked the last bit of the book and writing your own narrative to it. You might have quite a scrappy copy because today is the day we're going to edit it, improve it, ready to write up for our neat copy. These are our images from yesterday, so there should have been 4 images you were looking at. The people fleeing from the town, and this is where Rose Blanche's mother can't find her anymore. Rose Blanche going out to where the camp with the children was. And then remember, there was that single shot rang out from these scared soldiers who saw danger everywhere. And then we have these different soldiers that were coming to the town. The Red Star for the Red Army invading, but these are the new allies. And the war is coming to an end because Germany are losing. And here is that last image we had of where the camp had been and where Rose had been, where now nature is taking over again. So today we'll be editing and improving your work. And sometimes I know it's really hard for you to know what to put right. So we'll be going through it together. There will be times I will tell you to pause the video to do that piece of editing. Don't think about doing it all at once. Just do the piece of editing I've said at that time. You might be reading through your work several times today, but each time we'll just be looking for one particular thing to put right. The first thing you are going to do when you see pause is reread the narrative you wrote yesterday. And it'd be really good for you to have a pencil or a different colour pen to hand to note anything that doesn't make sense to you. Anything that when reading it through today you think, that's not what I meant. So I'd like you in a moment to pause and look for these things. I've left some information there for you so you can read it and think about how you could do things better in your narrative. Pause it until you finish doing this and then restart the video. Okay, I hope you've had a chance to read through it and put all your work right so it says what you think it should say. And now we're going to have a look at spelling. When I ask you to pause, I'm going to ask you to read initially your work backwards, starting at the last word and reading right the way backwards to the first word. You're just looking for the spelling of each individual word. Yeah, I know it sounds a bit weird, but if we look at each word individually, we might see whether or not it looks correct, and we might spot more of our spelling mistakes. There's often words that you personally find tricky to spell, but they probably won't be the same as your best friend or the person you sit next to in class. Then, reading forwards, I want you to look for homophones or near homophones. Those are those words that sound the same or nearly the same and are commonly misspelled. Things like here, here and here, there and there, where and were. Look at them in your work. Have you got the right one? So I'm going to need you to pause, and I've left some information on the board about what you're looking for. Remember, restart the video when you're ready, having been through your work to look for all these spelling errors. So hopefully you've found some spelling errors that you've been able to put right, and now we're going to move on to the next bit of our editing. So now we're looking at punctuation. I want you to start thinking about whether you've used a comma in the right place after a fronted adverbial, used an apostrophe for possession or contraction, used your inverted commas, your sort of speech marks around your speech. I've got a bit of text there that I've written, but I haven't really punctuated it very well. Could you have a little look at it? Think if you can think where you can see some errors. There's a few bits you might want to just have a little look, think about it. Where have I missed some punctuation out? Did you see where I've added them in now? Did you find those? So we have here the next day, comma. Rose's mum, so got an apostrophe there because it's the S of the possession. The mum belongs to Rose. And then we've got here our speech punctuation, a comma and then the opening of our speech punctuation. And then we've got no, but don't worry was their reply. And you'll notice we've started a new line for the new speaker. So maybe you can put some of that into yours. You'll notice actually we've got a single one here. It should have been a double. I don't know why that's not come out, but hopefully you won't make that mistake. So I'm going to pause now, and I've left on the screen the things you're going to look for. I've also sort of reminded you about capital letters and full stops. Well, we're getting to the end now. Hopefully you've now had this chance of actually putting right all your punctuation errors. I bet you found a few. Hopefully capital letters and full stops are all in there as well. And lastly, we'll be checking for our correct tense, our correct person, and the subject and verb. So, starting with the correct person. We said this time we were going to be writing in the third person. So, first person, I and we. Second person, you. And the third person, where somebody else reporting on what's happening. So we're going to use words like he, she, it, and they. Hopefully you've remembered that when you wrote through yesterday, but you can check in a moment. The subject and the verb needs to agree. So the subject, what's the sentence about? The verb, what are they doing? Or how are they being? And it's got to agree, because if you've got a singular one here, you need a different word than if you've got a plural one here. So be very careful with was and were, is and are. So have a look through when you're looking at your work. And then is the tense correct? So these sentences are written in the present tense. She walks into the monster's cave. She is walking into the monster's cave. If we then put those in past tense, we get she walked into the monster's cave and she was walking into the monster's cave. It's most likely because we're talking about something that has happened in the past and we're reporting on the events in those pictures that you will have written in the past tense. So check you've used that tense all the way through your writing. So there we are. Our last pause point. I want you to pause it, have a look at these three things to see if you can make your work the best. Well done. Now you have improved your work. Your work will now be really messy, I'm expecting, because if there's lots of crossings out, underlinings, changing of words, it's going to be messy work. But now's the chance that you can actually type it up or write it up in neat and send it through to your teacher. As you can see, you can handwrite to your neat copy or type it up. But after spending all this time editing your work, please take care when you write it up or type it up so errors of copying don't creep in. You've done lots of work today. Well done. And I promise you, the English lesson tomorrow, there is much less writing.